So, before the beginning has officially came to an end. This was an amazing journey for me. It took me more than a year to piece all this together into what you can see today. So, I want to add some and show you what it took to make these episodes and the process behind them. I'll of course go over some of the episodes of Before the Beginning, specifically the ones that are in the prologue playlist on my channel. I'll also show some additional stuff that you probably haven't seen before, and I hope this ain't gonna be boring as hell. This is the first time I'm making a video like this here. I'm curious how it will perform compared to my animation videos. So please show me some support by liking this video. That's all I'm asking for, really. With that, let's get into it. Episode 1. This is one of the most simplistic episodes of the prologue that I made, but not the most simplistic one. I mean, what can you expect from the first animation video? I honestly think that turned out pretty good, but I have to point out two things here. Firstly, when tying this episode to the rest of the lore, it might feel out of place, let's say. Though as far as I'm concerned, it still somehow works out fine, and it does make sense. Maybe not perfect sense, but that's intentional. And second, I have to mention this encrypted work here. I'm not gonna do stuff like this anytime soon. It only appeared in episode 1, and it's just because initially I had a completely different approach to the series. I wanted it to have more freedom and be more ARG style. I'm not saying that it isn't anymore. It's just that I think I made it more handy, let's say. Anyway, unless I start messing around with this kind of encryption in the future, you can just ignore this line. I'll just tell you that it pointed towards what would be shown in the next episode. Also, going with this ARG style I mentioned, I decided to add some bonus lore to the description of the episode. And even though my concept has changed now, I think this still works really well, so I decided to keep doing it in the next episodes. Episode 2 was the first big step for the series. Even though you can see how little time it took me to animate this compared to the time gaps we have now, it was still longer than the first episode and it contained a lot more stuff. I managed to import the work correctly and the results speak for themselves. Fun fact, back then I did not know how to properly add mist or wind to make the grass wiggle, so that actually became one of the main telling points of the episode. This is one reason I ever considered making episodes like this. I originally didn't even want it to be a part of the story, more like a bad spin-off or something, because it was meant solely for self-improvement. But with time, my script changed and these episodes became kind of a crucial part of the story, which is kind of funny if you ask me. So believe it or not, the first test renders for episode 3 came out no longer after episode 2. I left a test render in the playlist with my extra and behind the scenes videos. At the time I was dealing with problems in object transparency, lighting, shading, animating, all that. I of course went looking for help, mostly on Reddit, but it took a while before anyone answered. I had to repose the same question a couple times, and yeah, that's how I handled most of my problems early on. Either tutorials or praying somebody on Reddit will help me out. Yeah, you get the idea. Because of that long ass way, I started polishing my script. That's where the first major changes happened, and it reshaped how Before the Beginning would look going forward. Not as its own series, but as a prologue. At that time, I already had a concept for the 4th and the final episode, and you can guess it from the video I made not long before the 3rd episode came out. I also made some bonus content back then that I ended up scrapping. Those were my first tries at making something deeper, but I didn't like the way it came out. And you know what? If you want, you can watch it. I am uploading it as an unlisted video. Link is in the description. Or you can check the card on the right. Like I said, it was my old concept that I scrapped. It wasn't finished, grammar errors all over the place, and I think I typed it in a rush or something, you know. Anyway, we're moving on to episode 3. The 3rd episode, bloody hell, for real, this one's the one I disliked the most. I messed up a lot, specifically the lighting and shading. Honestly, even episode 2 looked cleaner than this to me. But yeah, maybe I'm just being too harsh on myself. Still, I made a lot of progress. By the end, I added some mob bricks and messed with their animations. And also, the ending of this episode was mostly improvised. I was hella tired one day and just sat down and animating the ending till like 2:30 AM. I didn't give a single shit about keeping it consistent, I just wanted to get over it. I mean, what can I say? It looked fine at the time, so I just rolled with it. Though looking back at it, it could use some improvement. Now, before episode 4, I wanted to make an April Fool's special since it was the end of March. And with the empty head I had back then, I hit that damn wall a couple times and came up with this. Yeah, you might have wondered why it ain't public. Now you know why. I explained everything in the description. I made that video to test our voices too. So yeah, that means that this video ended up being the first dubbed one on my channel. And here it is, episode 4. This one was my second most successful episode so far. I love it. Compared to my previous episode 3, I can even say that this is the single most noticeable improvement in quality. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it though, cause there still are mistakes. I had to fix some voice lines which may have caused shifts in tone while the character is speaking. I also had a couple rendering problems here and there. For example, that one stuttering was completely unintentional. The camera moved slightly between renders and fixing it would have been a huge pain in the ass, so I just left it. Now about a village. I built it from scratch with no real plan, just rolling like usual, trying to make something out of nothing. And I ain't a pro builder, but nobody complained, so it's cool. This is also the episode where I switched the Blender versions to the newer ones, though I again have to upgrade soon. By far, animating it's the most time, and let me tell you, it's especially time consuming when there's more than one character on screen. The villages and the human scenes took me almost as long as the rest of the episode put together. You're gonna rewatch the same bits over and over again to make sure everything lines up, especially with lots of focus points. It was mad tiring, but I think that it came out pretty good. I threw in particles here to show some kind of communication. Now, similarly to that encrypted line in episode 1, I don't think I'll push this much further because I'm moving toward having a team of voice actors. Still, I could reuse the idea later if I want characters that don't talk in a regular way. And of course, I should mention y'all's feedback. Now, you guys had me rolling. Seeing that y'all are showing some genuine interest in the lore was more than enough to give me a seizure of happiness for the next couple of days. It's just a part of me that really enjoys making puzzles and seeing other people solve them. I just really can't describe it, you know. I voiced both of those myself. I tried to make the voices different while keeping the style I wanted. I'll stick with this for now. If it gonna change, I'll drop an update in the channel posts. So you better subscribe or you're gonna miss out. I'm getting real close to 200 subs. So you'll also help me achieve this goal. I'll be really thankful. So now the climax of today's video, the final episode, the Hour of Glory animation music video. My first music video on the channel and surely not the last. Keep in mind, this is the final episode, not episode 5. And I'm leaving it that way in case I want to add something later. I know, clever, huh? Now this project is so extensive that I couldn't probably play it for you in Blender. A lot of assets get broken or misplaced during the process, but I'm sure you're gonna figure it out. So, this is also where I moved into modeling. In a span of 2 weeks, I made these things. I'm not spawning a single damn thing, of course. I actually used Blockbench to make them, so I could also convert them into the real Minecraft format. I mean, look at them! They're beautiful! And to this day, I still can't get UV editing in Blender, so Blockbench is still my go-to. That doesn't mean I didn't try though. I made this ring that beats the shit out of my FPS because of bad optimization. It's based on geometry nodes and custom extrusion. I ain't joking, it took me like 3 whole days to make this, if I'm correct. The result? I can change what's written on it. Hell yeah. I ain't doing nothing like this again. Working on the animation itself started at the beginning of July. Around that time I dropped the first teaser shot for the final episode. Because this is a more recent episode, now I can also show you the frame render time with the days they were rendered. I'm only able to do this now because I still have the frames from the episode, unlike the other stuff. As I mentioned in the episode description, the span of making this single episode was so long that you can see how the animation dynamics change over time. At first it's a bit sluggish and slow. Over time I started introducing quicker movement, while trying to keep the realism, however you want to call it. You also notice that render times jump around sometimes. I went back tons of times to fix stuff or add new things. Adding trails and motion blur helped, but I ran into problems near the end. When the camera was parented to a fast-moving object, everything just smeared in the final render. I need a different solution for that in the future. That's why these 2 scenes have no motion blur. You know what would have been a nice addition instead? Depth of field. And I'm really mad at myself that I thought of that too late, but I included it in a later episode, and it turned out great. And here's the big bang. We're about the 15th day of animating. During that period, I released the second teaser shot. I actually have a third unreleased teaser shot that I planned to drop near the end of animating, but I kind of forgot about it. I also made 3 thumbnails for this episode and chose one to go with. I wanted to try the YouTube's new multiple thumbnails feature, though it didn't give that much of a boost for the video. And here we have the universe. Now, every dot you see here is a separate galaxy managed by a particle system. I watched tutorials and made some pretty cool models for them. Now, the solar system sequence was a different beast. I spent a whole week in separate project building a true-to-scale solar system replica. The hardest part were making the materials and managing each planet's origin. I wanted to show the time passing as the planets change over millions of years, and I'm happy to say that I succeeded. I could have done a whole lot more. I changed the skybox more and add light straight from the sun to indicate multiple orbital periods per frame. But remember, I'm working alone. I actually intended to add Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune, but I realized 2 things. One, I didn't have enough time in the episode, and 2, that piled even more work on me. At one point it felt like a job. Not to squad sit there for hours animating. Was it worth it? I don't know. In one way yes, but it could have been better than 300 views. And by the way, here are the models I used for the asteroids. Yes, there are actual asteroids in the video, but they're hard to notice because their real size is tiny compared to everything else. I was really happy to get this to work. So far I've been using the JMC2 OBJ tool to export Minecraft worlds to Blender, but it only handled vanilla content. Now there's a tool called MiX that lets you export worlds with LOD and modded stuff. And compare these 2 shots. On the left where Voidhouse is flying, I used JMC2 OBJ, which didn't pick up biomes correctly because they were modded. On the right I used MiX and the world looks warmer and more consistent with the correct colors. At the end I originally planned for infinite number of these, but my computer barely even handled this small amount. It's a technical limit on my side. With more time I'm sure I could figure it out. You can even see how duplicates have less surface subdivisions than the original one. Yeah, and that's about it for the episode. But I'll explain one thing quickly. You see how the planets and sun look round? I reasoned that even if they were made from 1 by 1 meter cubes, at that distance and scale you wouldn't even notice. And now the epilogue. Remember how I said that the final episode took 4 months to make? Well, guess how long the epilogue took? 1 week. Yeah, just 1 week to make this, and the epilogue is even longer than the final episode. This time, however, I already had most of the assets from the final episode, so I didn't have to spend as much time making new ones. It's one of a kind animation so far because it's more storytelling than action. I wanted to make sure it didn't become a lore dump, and I think I mostly pulled it off. I do have to say it's probably the second biggest flop on my channel, right after the April Fool's video. The algorithm is really just fucking with me at this point. Still, I'm happy with every bit of feedback y'all gave me. At least I can remind myself that I'm not doing this for nothing. The epilogue is straightforward, animation-wise. What's told is up to viewers' interpretation. I should point out the black hole shot though. There are many tutorials on how to make a black hole like that, and I used one of them for reference. I do have to say though it took me some serious time to render. 40 beginning has ended, but it's not actually finished. I'm sure I'll release at least one more episode in the future, but right now I can't because of uncertainty around voice actors and writing. So I'm giving myself some room, and right now I'm in big need of voice actors and builders, so if you'd like to help me out, DM me on Discord. I'll be really thankful for every bit of help. Also, tell me in the comments what you think about reusing voice actors for multiple characters, because if I need one voice actor for each character, I need like 50 people. Like, you get the idea. Right now I'm starting to write the script for the first season. I have the whole concept, I just need to write this down. Unfortunately, I don't know when the teasers or mentions are gonna come out. I'm trying to get into college soon and the time's gonna be tight. But I'll post updates occasionally in the community posts on my channel about how the project's going. What I'll say is the first season will be more grounded than the prologue, which was very mystical. In the meantime, I'm waiting to see what you guys discover. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one. And Happy New Year. God bless.